What's up? We've got another really fun farm strategy for you here today. This is probably the most fun farm strategy we've come up with thus far. It's less dangerous than the Delirium or Abyss strategies that we've done already this league, and it's faster, so it's better for temple farming. With that being said, this strategy has been generating more currency per hour for us, both in terms of valuable base drops, things that you can craft up and sell or wear, but also just in terms of actual currency items, essences, divines, chaos, things like that, the usual stuff you pile up in your stash like Scrooge McDuck. For some reason, that's just been raining ever since we started doing this boss rushing strategy. So before we jump into it, help us out with that YouTube busy work. Like, subscribe, and hype the video if you're on mobile. Those all tell YouTube to show our content to more people, which helps us keep doing this. Alright, so I've already kind of hinted at it, but what are we doing here? We are boss rushing. We are rushing map bosses and the Vaal League mechanic so that we can run as many temples as possible. We are also killing a lot of essence monsters, and it kind of seems like that's where a lot of the currency is coming from. Essence monsters might have been a little underrated by the community at large and also just us. They seem to have like a really high rarity component to them. They are generating a ton of chaos and divines, on top of the also very valuable essences that they drop. This is a tie into the recent temple breakdown video we just put out as well, because with a good temple setup, you can really ramp up the currency per hour by getting into a new temple every 12 minutes or so, every 10 to 15. And if those temples are creating multiple divines every run, that's huge. You might be generating 8 divines an hour at best, maybe more, with just the temple, even if nothing dropped at all on all the maps, which obviously it is. The initial plan with this strategy was literally just to farm as many temples per hour as we could for the purposes of making videos talking about the temple and not caring if we made a cent in the maps, but then we made more with this than we did with anything else. Whoops, I guess. I don't really know why, but the monsters in the maps are just throwing out way more divines than they did in the heavy juiced Abyss maps that we were running before. This is a strategy you can use in conjunction with some of the other strategies too. You can do this for a while to hunt down corruption nexus areas on the Atlas, clear those out, and then run a slower, juicier strategy like Abyss on the extra rewarding cleanse maps. So what about Delirium, Abyss, Breach, and the rest? We're not adding them into our maps. Sometimes we'll stop and clear them if they show up, but sometimes we don't. It's not very scientific, to be honest. Most of the time it's just get to the map boss, do the league mechanic, kill any essences that you see on the map, get out and do the next. You can and mathematically probably should do Abyss, but it will slow you down. And as for the rest, Delirium and Breach are pretty good, even if you don't have any supporting tablet suffixes, like you're not using Delirium tablets, for example. Delirium's still okay. Ritual and Expedition, though, without tablet modifiers are probably not worth doing. Alright, so as usual, let's talk a little bit about map setup. So this is our usual map setup. Alk, double tap it with an Exalt, don't look at it, and go. If your build needs to filter out specific modifiers, then go for it, but that is one of the huge advantages of Poison Pathfinder, is you can literally just run all maps. And, maybe you do want to take a second to look at them and make sure that it's not like 4 damage mods or something on the map, but otherwise you can just go like this. You can corrupt them if you want. We kind of haven't been bothering. We've just been running 6 mod maps the whole time. Very simple. Now, in terms of the tablets that we've been running, that is a little bit more complex. So what we've been doing was a mixture of Precursor and Overseer tablets, and that's because there was a bug with Overseer tablets where Organized Forces and Beyond Reality, the bonuses in the Atlas passive tree for bossing, just didn't work with powerful map bosses that were being added by Precursor tablets, the Overseer tablets. Basically, Overseer tablets were bugged. We've even talked about it before. GGG kind of threw us an early Christmas gift here. They fixed this bug with Overseer tablets. They made it so that the powerful map boss modifier out on the Atlas is functionally identical to the Overseer tablet boss empowerment mechanic. They're the same, the Atlas passive tree works, the bug has been fixed. Now, what this bug fix to Overseer tablets means is that Precursor tablets are kind of dead now. If you've gotten at least 8 points in the bossing tree, you're able to take Organized Forces and gain +1 to the monster level of any area that has a powerful map boss in it, which means using an Overseer tablet effectively gives you Irradiated, except regular Precursor tablets have way weaker suffixes on average than Overseer tablets. Overseer tablets can guarantee 1 or 2 essences, for example, whereas Precursor tablets give you a 70 to 100% increased chance of having an essence. The issue is that the increased chance is based off the estimated like 5 or maybe 10% chance of having an essence in every map, so that goes from either 5 to 10% or 10 to 20. It's not 100%, right? Even if you had 500% increased chance to contain essences, you're not getting multiple essences out of that. Whereas Overseer tablets, they can add 1 to 2 essences in every map, so technically speaking, it's possible to get an extra 6 essences out of tablets just from Overseer tablets. And then if you were to get lucky and proc Remnants of Power and get double effect of the Precursor tablets on your map, that could be like 12 extra essences from tablets. Very RNG, requires a lot of setup, but it's technically possible. So Overseer tablets are just strictly better than Precursor tablets. That's the ultimate takeaway here. And they're also better because of these two modifiers right here. Increased rarity of items dropped by map bosses and increased quantity of items dropped by map bosses. When you have a powerful map boss, you've done the whole map bossing tree, you've gotten it all the way up to at least 8 points, but ideally like all 10. They're going to be hard. They're going to take, like, compared to everything else in the game, they're going to take like no damage. But if you have a strong build, they are able to drop an absolutely insane amount of stuff, especially when you are using one or both of these suffix modifiers that gives increased rarity and increased quantity. Then other than that, you pretty much still want the same thing as you always have. You want increased rarity as one of your prefixes, and then because we're not really going out of our way to like hunt down every single rare in the map, we actually kind of want more monster increased effectiveness more than we want increased number of rare monsters. It's still nice to kill rare monsters while we're making our way to the boss. We're not like doing a pacifist run through all the maps or anything. We're definitely still killing everything we can along the way. We're even still taking some of the nodes down here in the tree that give you more rare monsters. But our goal is to get as much stuff out of the bosses and the handful of rares that we kill, rather than to add as many rares into the maps as possible. So, we really want to emphasize getting quantity and rarity of items out of map bosses, or essences out of our suffixes on our Overseer tablets, increase rarity as a prefix, and then either monster effectiveness, or rare monsters, or just literally any other prefix, it doesn't matter. Now there is one other wrinkle that we can go for in terms of tablets, and that's the Grand Project. This is a unique tablet. It is shockingly not that expensive at time of recording. For what it does, you're only able to use it on Precursor Tower maps. You're only able to use these tablets once. And what they do is they make it so that you can reach any map that is in the radius of a tower. So I've done this on a lot of towers. This will help you with skipping around areas. You can see, like, this is a tower where I've done it. This is a tower where I've done it, and it helps you very, very easily jump around the map really quickly to hunt down citadels, which is why I was initially doing it. You can see I found a ton of citadels over in this area, bricked one of them, and cleared all the rest. But then it also makes it very easy to hunt down corruption nexuses, which is one of the great ways to find lots of currency in this game. Hunting down corruption nexuses, hunting down these like special intermission style maps, and, you know, trying to get like Rigwald's ferocity, or you know, any of those fancy lineage support gems that come from those maps specifically. But also hunting down those corruption nexuses and just simply sitting and farming maps in these areas with an Abyss setup, or this setup really, just works really, really well. It adds a ton of extra monsters in the maps. The cleansed monsters that get added in these cleansed areas are only capable of dropping currency, so all of that extra rarity that you're getting off of the tablet prefixes that you're running in every slot, ideally, is going to just make them drop a lot better currency. So, in terms of playing around with tablets, we have played around with some other stuff. I think the last thing that I was playing around with was an Overseer and 2 Abyss, and honestly, didn't like it as much. Abyss and Ritual will slow you down the most. The difference is that Abyss is very consistently rewarding, so it is a good option. Ritual's not as consistent, so it's not great. Breach and Expedition are also options, but like Abyss, they will slow you down, and they're not as rewarding, right? So it's just a worse trade. Expedition has a higher chance of killing you and wasting your map if you're trying to go fast. You're not taking a bit of time to read all the Remnant mod combinations, so it's maybe the mechanic that punishes you the most. For going fast, that is. Delirium is the one option out of all of this that works really well with going fast, but it will make everything a lot harder, so you really need a strong build. It can be pretty oppressive, even more than Abyss. You can't just walk around Delirium. I guess you could turn it off early, but then you're basically just not doing it. You're wasting a tablet. Basically, you have to ask yourself the question, do I want an extra 10 to 15 exalts worth of simulacrum splinters in every map, or do I want the maps to be a minute or two faster? Now, one note that we should make here is that isn't it tempting, this node right here in the Delirium passive tree is actually a tempting option in this specific setup, because we are just trying to boss rush and we're just killing whatever's in between the start of the map and the boss, you know, and not worrying about anything else, there is real potential for this to pay off in the form of duplicating high-level currency, perfect chaos, perfect exalts, divines, whatever, but it is a big risk as well. You know, you're having to do a delirious map boss, and a lot of the maps are just going to get absolutely nothing out of the deal, so yeah, you know, ultimately you would probably just want to drop Get Out of My Head in order to take that, like drop the magic monster scaling, not worry about that, and take Isn't It Tempting, and trying doing that in this setup. We did play around with that a little bit, didn't really find it was actually, like, all that great. Like, it ultimately just wound up not being as good as running triple overseer and just trying to stack more essences. And with all of that being said, let's take a look at the Atlas passive tree. So this is the essence setup that we had talked about in a previous video. We've made some small modifications to it, and here it is. We are taking all of the essence nodes, especially energetic resonance. This gives us basically 100% increased chance for all of the good essences like attack and crit and physical and chaos, like those are all good. And then we're taking every single essence node possible. We did play around with some wisp related stuff, because you will unfortunately get a few more wisps in your maps. Not worth it. Wisps are still bad. Worst mechanic in either game, if we're being real. And then, as I mentioned before, we're still taking the rare monster stuff. It's kind of still worth it, even though rare monsters are something that we're not like going out of our way to get all of. It's still better to have like 5 rare monsters or 10 or 12 in between you and the map boss than like 2 or 4, right? So it's worth taking this, and then we are losing out on a little map mod effect, but honestly, that's not the end of the world. Like, that is something we could maybe do instead of the rare monsters, but it doesn't really seem like it's going to have a huge difference. The real big difference maker in terms of the, like, rarity and quantity of stuff dropping from the map bosses is the precursor tablet modifier effect, and we are taking everything we can to juice that up with all of the small passives up here and remnants of power and so on. We're still getting the big heavy hitters in terms of map mod effect in the form of Unstable Energies and Grueling Journey, and also not taking all that extra map mod effect doesn't mean that these maps are just a little bit easier, a little bit safer, a little bit faster, and that's kind of the whole point of this whole strategy. Now in terms of the rest of the, like, League mechanic passive trees, they're all pretty standard stuff. Stir the Swarm, go left on Abyss. You know, one thing that we like about Breach, or like setup we like in Breach, obviously Rising Pyre, this setup is kind of like relatively commonly used, but taking Frantic Invasion and taking 20% increased damage from all the Breach monsters is just, like, super, super dangerous. So, like, Grasping Hands and Interdimensional Assault do a pretty good job of still throwing a bunch of extra monsters in without that 20% extra damage taken. Expedition and the rest are kind of, you know, pretty much the standard setup, although, like we said, dropping Get Out of My Head to take Isn't It Tempting is an option too. Now, where you can get a little creative is in the bossing tree. The final node here, Beyond Reality, gives you that 30% chance for all of your maps, essentially, if you're running Overseer tablets, to have Corruption in them. Corruption means extra modifiers, which means more rarity or rare monsters or whatever other kind of loot rewards, pack size, whatever. And it can also just mean like +1 zone level too. That is a thing that can come from Corruption, which you already get +1 out of Organized Forces, so that can help with getting more zone level. So that is something, that is a thing you can do. However, another setup you can go for is just to take both Fit for a King and Spoils of War, and still take Organized Forces. You know, you're not wanting to have to run Irradiated Tablets, unless you just have some really well-rolled ones that you want to chew up. But ultimately, other than that, your best option really is like Crystal Realm in the middle. Since we're doing Essence-related stuff, you're guaranteeing an Essence in every map, along with having much higher chance of getting Essences thanks to Crystalline Growths and all the smalls in this area. And yeah, that's pretty much it, is you kind of have that flexibility of, you can do Beyond Reality if you like. A lot of people will go that route because it has a little bit higher, like, good RNG chance. But if you don't like stopping and fighting demons, you find that annoying or whatever, you can absolutely drop that and just take Fit for a King, and this will mean more good stuff from bosses. So that's the number one flex we would recommend if you want to play around with something just slightly different from what we're recommending here. Make that swap there. All right, now let's wrap up by talking about kind of an important aspect of this strategy, and that is that it will generate a ton of high-tier bases from bosses. That's a fun sentence to say, right? Most of the items that drop are going to be garbage, like mostly Garbanzo. But some will be good, and picking them up and selling them off to other people, like whether you pick them up and ID them and sell the base just as is, or you do a little gamble crafting with exalts and maybe even some desecrated currency, that's an option too. You know, sometimes a garbage ring is just a garbage ring, but other times you can turn it into, as you can see here, like you can turn it into 1, 2, even 10 divines. You never know. And it's worth a few exalts to try. So you're going to get tons of tier 4, tier 5 bases, and it's pretty much worth playing around with most of those just to see if there's any value you can extract from them at all. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and finally thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more PoE content, consider becoming a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.